The average distance from the Earth to the Sun. The average distance from the Earth to the Sun is approximately 93 million miles, 149.6 million kilometers, which is known as an astronomical unit, (O). This distance is also referred to as 1 astronomical unit. The actual distance between the Earth and the Sun varies slightly throughout the year due to the elliptical shape of the Earth's orbit around the Sun. At its closest point in early January, the Earth is about 91.4 million miles, 147.1 million kilometers, from the Sun, while at its farthest point in early July, the Earth is about 94.5 million miles, 152.1 million kilometers, from the Sun. The distance between the Earth and the Sun is a fundamental parameter in astronomy and is used as a reference for calculating distances to other objects in the solar system, such as the planets and asteroids. It is also an important factor in determining the temperature and climate on Earth, as the amount of sunlight that the Earth receives depends on the distance between the Earth and the Sun. Summary. The Earth and the Sun have an average distance of 93 million kilometers, also known as an astronomical unit, (O). The actual distance varies slightly due to Earth's elliptical orbit around the Sun. This distance is crucial in astronomy, determining distances to other objects and influencing Earth's temperature and climate. The distance between Earth and the Sun is also a key factor in solar system physics. How big is the solar system? Our solar system is huge. There is a lot of empty space out there between the planets. Voyager 1, the most distant human-made object, has been in space for more than 40 years, and it still has not escaped the influence of our Sun. As of February 1, 2020, Voyager 1 is about 13.8 billion miles, 22.2 billion kilometers, from the Sun, nearly 4 times the average distance from the Sun to icy Pluto. Needless to say, our solar system doesn't fit really well on paper, or a website, for that matter. Scientists figured out a while ago that writing out those huge numbers wasn't the best use of their time, so they invented the astronomical unit, (O). 1 astronomical unit, about 93 million miles, 150 million kilometers, represents the average distance from the Sun to the Earth. It would take an airliner more than 20 years to fly that distance, and that's just a one-way ticket. That's traveling at about 400 miles per hour, or 644 kilometers per hour. In an effort to bring these vast distances down to Earth, we've shrunk the solar system down to the size of a football field. On this scale, the Sun, by far the largest thing in our solar system, is only a ball about 2/3 of an inch, 17 millimeters, in diameter sitting on the goal line. That's about the width of a US dime coin. Considering a typical honeybee is about half an inch long, the fans are going to need telescopes to see the action. The inner planets, Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, are about the size of grains of sand on a football field scale. A typical flea, which is only about 3 millimeters long, would be much smaller than them. Closest to the goal line is Mercury, just under a yard from the end zone, 0.8 yards, to be specific. In reality, the average distance from the Sun to Mercury is roughly 35 million miles, 58 million kilometers, or 0.4 astronomical units. At this scale, Mercury's diameter would be scarcely as large as the point of a needle. Venus is next. It is 1.4 yards from the end zone. The true average distance from the Sun to Venus is about 67 million miles, 108 million kilometers, or 0.7 astronomical units. Its size on this scale is about 0.15 millimeters. On to Earth, sitting pretty on the 2-yard line. It is slightly larger than Venus at about 0.16 millimeters. Just as most quarterbacks would be extremely pleased to find their team within 2 yards of a touchdown, Earth reaps many benefits from this prime location in the solar system. We are at the perfect distance from the Sun for life to flourish. Venus is too hot. Mars is too cold. Scientists sometimes call our region of space the Goldilocks zone, because it appears to be just right for life. As noted earlier, Earth's average distance to the Sun is about 93 million miles, 150 million kilometers, from the Sun. That's 1 astronomical unit. Mars is on the 3-yard line of our imaginary football field. The red planet is about 142 million miles, 228 million kilometers, on average from the Sun. That's 1.5 astronomical units. On this scale, Mars is about 0.08 millimeters. Asteroids roam far and wide in our solar system, but most are contained within the main asteroid belt between Jupiter and Mars. On our football field, you'd find them scattered like so many slow-moving linebackers between the 4 and 8 yard lines. In real distances, that's an average of roughly 186 million to 372 million miles, 300 million to 600 million kilometers, from the Sun, or 2 to 4 astronomical units. On this imaginary scale, these so-called linebackers are more like microscopic specks than the real hulking linebackers that play for the NFL. If you could lump together all the thousands of known asteroids in our solar system, their total mass wouldn't even equal 10% of Earth's moon. Jupiter remains pretty close to our end zone on the 10.5 yard line. Our solar system's largest planet is at an average distance of 484 million miles, 778 million kilometers, from the Sun. That's 5.2 astronomical units. Jupiter is the largest of the planets, spanning nearly 1.75 millimeters in diameter on our football field scale. Jupiter's diameter is about equal to the thickness of a U.S. quarter in our shrunken solar system. Saturn is on the field at 19 yards from the goal line. The ringed world is about 887 million miles, 1.4 billion kilometers, from the Sun, or 9.5 astronomical units. Saturn's size on this scale is 1.47 millimeters. Uranus is about the point where our cosmic coach would call in an interplanetary field goal kicker. The gas giant is about 38 yards from our end zone. In real distances, that's an average of 1.8 billion miles, 2.9 billion kilometers, 19 astronomical units, from the Sun. That's quite a kick. It's little wonder only one spacecraft has visited Uranus. At 0.62 millimeters on this scale, Uranus is just a little smaller than the letter R in the word trust on a penny. Neptune is where things start to get way out. It is 60 yards from our solar goal line on the imaginary football field. That's an average of 2.8 billion miles, 4.5 billion kilometers, or 30 astronomical units from the real Sun. Neptune, a little smaller than Uranus, is 0.6 millimeters on this scale. Tiny Pluto is much closer to the opposing team's end zone. It's about 79 yards out from the Sun, or 3.7 billion miles, 5.9 billion kilometers, on average in real distances. That's 39.5 astronomical units. On this scale, our little friend Voyager 1 has left the game and is well out in the stadium parking lot or beyond. The spacecraft is traveling away from the Sun at about 3.5 astronomical units per year. That's about 326 million miles a year, 525 million kilometers a year. Thank you for watching. Summary of how big is the solar system? The solar system is vast, with much empty space between planets. As of February 1, 2020, Voyager 1 is about 13.8 billion miles, 22.2 billion kilometers, from the Sun, nearly 4 times the average distance from the Sun to icy Pluto. To simplify the calculations, scientists invented the astronomical unit, O, which represents the average distance from the Sun to Earth. 1 astronomical unit, about 93 million miles, 150 million kilometers, represents the average distance from the Sun to Earth. The inner planets, Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, are about the size of grains of sand on a football field scale. Mercury is closest to the goal line, with an average distance of 35 million miles, 58 million kilometers. Venus is next, with an average distance of 67 million miles, 108 million kilometers, or 0.7 astronomical units. Earth, on the 2 yard line, is slightly larger than Venus at about 0.16 millimeters. Asteroids roam far and wide in our solar system, but most are contained within the main asteroid belt between Jupiter and Mars. On our football field, we would find them scattered like microscopic specks between the 4 and 8 yard lines. Jupiter remains close to our end zone, with an average distance of 484 million miles, 778 million kilometers, from the Sun. Saturn is on the field at 19 yards from the goal line, while Uranus is about 38 yards from our end zone. Neptune is 60 yards from our solar goal line, and tiny Pluto is much closer to the opposing team's end zone. On this scale, Voyager 1 has left the game and is traveling away from the Sun at about 3.5 astronomical units per year. This content is mainly for the purpose of learning English vocabulary, English grammar, and English sentence structure. We are learning American English. Thank you for taking the time to watch. Thank you for considering subscribing to see more exciting videos.